When I sat down, I had no idea who I was facing. You see, I was playing in the Maia Streamer Blitz tournament, a Blitz tournament organized during the Maia Chess Open in Portugal, and I had come there with the mindset that I really wanted to win it. This would be difficult though, as even a grandmaster was playing, and at this point, I only had 1 out of 3 points. So I sat down, looked at my opponent in the eye, and thought, okay, let's win this game. I was facing João Guilherme Oliveira Vaz Matos, a Portuguese player, and before the game started, we were talking about how to pronounce his name. Which was hard for me as I don't really speak Portuguese, but I do speak Spanish, español. Before we continue with the chess, let me introduce to you the sponsor of this video, NordVPN. NordVPN is a VPN or a virtual private network that encrypts your data so you can browse the internet safely and anonymously. You see, when you're browsing a public Wi-Fi network, it's a lot easier for malicious entities to be able to get hold of your data, and that is why it's so good to use a VPN, because with NordVPN, your IP address gets hidden and all your data gets encrypted, so you don't have to stress about that, which for me is amazing. Now, don't even get me started on shows and movies, because when I travel, I still want to be able to watch my favorite Swedish shows, but a lot of times those Swedish shows are not available in the country that I'm in. With NordVPN, I can change my virtual location and therefore be able to access a lot of different shows and movies that I would not be able to access otherwise. Right now, you can get an exclusive NordVPN deal with my link nordvpn.com/chessanna. It's risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you so much, NordVPN, for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to some amazing chess. I hope it's amazing. So after a bit of talking, we shook hands, and the game started. I started by playing the move d4 like I always do, and he went knight f6. I played c4, he went e6, I brought on my knight, and this became an Nimzo Indian. I was playing the move super fast because we only had 3 minutes on the clock, and he went for this line with b6 where I immediately took space in the center. I love playing against this because, as you can see, white really quickly gets a lot of space, and space in chess feels nice. So he played d5, I took the pawn, and then after he took back, I stepped up with my pawn 1 step, and now I have this beautiful pawn structure, and I simply developed my bishop. The idea now was that if he castles, I'll be able to go bishop takes h7 and capture his pawn. So he spent a little bit of time thinking, realizing that he might be in some danger, and he ended up playing the move g6. Now my initial reaction here was, wait a second, this can't be good. There must be something for me here. And I was calculating, what can I do to explode the center and make that king regret that he is standing there? So I spent some time calculating, and my opponent wasn't really realizing the danger. He was just kind of looking at the position, looking quite calm, as if everything was according to plan, and as if he was ready to castle the next move. I ended up bringing out my knight, thinking that if he now castles, I will just simply start pushing my h-pawn and I'll give everything onto that attack. So he started calculating. Do I castle? Do I not castle? Do I do a different move? And I was kind of looking around. I'm not really sure what I was thinking up at this point. Maybe I was thinking about the earthquake that happened, I think the day before this in Portugal. I'm not sure. But he went bishop a6 to trade off the bishops. And it was now clear to me that I did not want to trade the bishops, because I thought if I trade the bishops, then I'll be removing one of the most important pieces that I have right now for the attack. So I played the move bishop g5, threatening the queen, asking the queen where it's going to go. He played queen c8 because if he pushes the f6 pawn, I'll be able to capture on g6. And now you'll see that the idea of me playing bishop g5 was that I wanted to play the move e6, sacrificing a pawn, but with the idea of removing some of the defenders of the king. Now, the reason I went out with my bishop first was so that my opponent wouldn't be able to play the move queen e7 at this point, pinning my pawn and making my threats a little bit harder to achieve. So now he started thinking, and it was a very sharp position. Every turn that went wrong here could be fatal for the game. And I was really happy. I felt like it would be impossible to defend. So he ended up taking my pawn. He couldn't take my bishop in between because then I would take his knight. And I sacrificed my bishop. Bishop takes g6. Now, I just want to bring in my queen, and I hadn't really fully calculated if there was a checkmate, but I just thought that practically this would be really difficult for him to defend with only a minute 30 on the clock. My queen, my bishop, and my knight were together going to be very strong against this attack. So he spent a little bit of time thinking, should he take the bishop or should he not take the bishop? I thought that he had to take the bishop, but he also thought so and ended up taking it. I immediately took the queen, recapture with the queen, and I was really pretending as if I knew exactly what to do here. Which, to be fair, I didn't really. But chess is very psychological. You always gotta look very confident. So I checked with the bishop. He sacrificed his rook, thinking that that was the only thing he could do to stop the attack. And now the king was out in the open, and his queen, knight, and rook, we can see, were quite trapped at this moment. So I thought, okay, I don't have an immediate win, but his king is very much trapped right now in the center of the board, and it's going to take him a while to move out his pieces. So I was trying to calculate, how do I continue this attack? Am I winning, or is this just a bluff? Everything that I wanted to do now was to see how can I bring in more pieces. So I went out with my knight to g5. And now I was threatening to take the pawn on e6. And, well, pretty much checkmating. So he went queen g8, defending the pawn. And it was now clear to me that I had to bring another piece into the attack. So I decided to queenside castle to connect my rooks and get my rook onto the e file. I also couldn't kingside castle because that bishop in a6 was sniping down. Also, do you hear right now the alarm? It's not an alarm, it's like a police car or an ambulance. Anyways, he brought out his knight to c6, and it was clear to me that we had to continue this attack, because otherwise he would be able to get out with his rook and maybe even escape with the king, which it was crucial that he wouldn't have time to escape with his king. And so I play the move, rook h e1, threatening now to take on e6. He went back with the knight to d8, which, even though he was defending the pawn, was good news for me because that meant that the king couldn't escape there anymore. And now I started pushing my f-pawn. I only wanted to attack this e-pawn with as many pieces as possible. He only had 27 seconds left. Time was ticking, and he had difficult decisions to make. How would he salvage this position? How would he stop his king from getting checkmated when I was throwing all the pieces at him? He brought up his king to d6, and it was clear to me that we have to continue the attack. So I thought, okay, let's push the pawn one more step. The pawn is also pinned right now. The e-pawn is pinned because of my queen on h6. What does he do? He went knight f7, threatening my queen, and now I had queen takes e6 checkmate. After this, we shook hands, and he obviously, well, it was a checkmate. I was going to say he resigned, but he didn't even resign. He couldn't do anything. And we started talking a little bit because he was asking, you know, was it losing? Like, could I ever get out? And I was telling him that I think he could have gotten out. Like, there was some way for the king to escape. However, it's hard to do that when he has so little time, which was why I entered this. So I told him that I was kind of bluffing and just hoping that he wouldn't really know what to do because of how difficult the position was with little time. So we were really analyzing the game here, and he was so nice. And it was actually kind of crazy because after this game finished, I ended up winning the rest of my games, and this led to me actually getting second in this blitz tournament. So I even beat an international master in this tournament, which I'll link the video here. But it ended up being one of my best blitz tournaments ever. I gained 30 points of rating and I beat some really strong players and got second. And Maia ended up winning the whole tournament officially because the guy that actually won was a GM who wasn't really supposed to play there. So Maia ended up being the official winner of the tournament and I got second. And I'll insert a little clip here of me getting my prize because I was very proud of getting this prize. Although to be fair, I was a bit worried about how to bring this trophy back home to Sweden because it was quite big and maybe difficult to put in on a plane. But I hope that you enjoy this game, and I also hope that this game served as a good inspiration for being aggressive and attacking whilst playing chess, but more importantly, looking confident while doing so. People don't realize sometimes how much of a psychological game chess is. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you also so much NordVPN for sponsoring this video. I will see you all in my next one. Bye!